Okay, so thank you very, very much. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharni Nirvisesis and Nivani Paskatyade Sitarni Vanchakapati Bistaki Pasnavi Vitapati Tanam Pavane Vyo Vaishnavi Binamo Namaha. So 2 years ago, I gave a presentation about career Dharma, which is basically the Varna part of Varnashram. And I wanted to give you now an update on what's been going on with that. So, of course, this is the first purpose of ISKCON, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all peoples in the techniques of spiritual life. So systematically in the techniques, in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Prabhupada often used the phrase peace and prosperity, used that 195 times. So here we're looking at 5.19.19 purport, where Srila Prabhupada says that the Krishna consciousness movement is being propagated all over the world to reestablish the Varnashram Dharma system and thus save human society from gliding down to hellish life. So here he's giving it as one of the goals of our Hare Krishna movement. And Prabhupada in 5.7.4 purport, he's saying that we want to have people act according to these divisions for their spiritual advancement. This is, I believe, one of the most important purports in 2.7.6 Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada says that in the Gurukul, along with being trained in the value of life, to understand the values of life, one should get specific training for a livelihood. By the way, in Srila Prabhupada's lectures in 1976 in Mumbai, he was describing the verses from the 7th canto about the brahmachari ashram, and he was going back and forth between talking about children in a Gurukula and talking about our adult brahmacharis living in temple ashrams. And there he made a similar statement to this one in the 2nd canto purport, where he said that all devotees should become daksha, or expert. They should not become callous to material knowledge, and that all of the brahmacharis should be trained to know something of everything and everything of something. So this is a big question. Are we doing this in our Hare Krishna movement? Are we helping our young people to find work according to their nature and to do that work as livelihood and service? Are we doing that in our gurukuls? Are we doing that in our temples? Are we helping our adult members to do this? At least my experience, and I travel widely in the Hare Krishna movement, is that we are not doing this. That we generally say, okay, this needs to be done, go ahead and do it. Maybe we look at people's skills, but we don't look at their nature. And what about to the world? Are we teaching this to society at large, the systematic techniques of how to use their nature to earn their livelihood as an offering to the Lord? So myself and Dr. Ruchira Datta, whose initiated name is Rukmini, that's not my god sister Rukmini, her last name is not Datta. Dr. Datta and myself have spent 6 years of research to put together Career Dharma, which, as I said 2 years ago, I presented that we were working on this. And so I wanted to give you this update to try to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's dream, to try to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's mission, what Srila Prabhupada so much wanted to do with education. So, of course, we have the book, Career Dharma, which was an Amazon bestseller continually for 2 months. We have a lot of excellent in-depth reviews, sales all over the world, and it's available all over the world in paperback and ebook. And this book is divided into 3 main sections. The first one is how to figure out our nature in terms of our livelihood and our service. Who am I on a material level, of course? Who am I? Where do I fit? Now, of course, that's what most people have their interest in. Most of their interest ends at that point. What's my nature? But part 2 is, how do I use that nature in Sanatana Dharma? How do I actually have where's the Dharma? Career Dharma. And this is on a personal level. Then part 3, we're looking at, what does an ideal society look like? How would we have a vision for society? We talk there about cooperation between the different fields of work, competition within the fields, how there's checks and balances. how to have actually sustainable prosperity. We give an example of what we call mathematical eco-sociology in New Vrindavan. And then we have a vision for a whole society. Now, the book has exercises and quizzes to help solidify understanding. This is something people ask about a lot. And we have a lot of examples in the book. We have a lot of historical examples, and we have contemporary examples. We have testimonies. We have altogether 9 testimonies from various devotees in various fields and occupations about how they're using that work in the service of the Lord. And we have in-depth research from Shastra. The book is based solidly on the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam in particular, but we also have over 400 empirical citations that again show the logic of the system from the Shastra with so many examples. All right, then we also have a course that we teach live in person, and this is divided up a little differently than the book. So there we divide the course up into 4 main sections: identifying our ideal career field and prosperity type, which corresponds to part 1 of the book. Then what corresponds to part 2 of the book, we divide into 2 main sections: learning the secrets of making our work deeply meaningful and progressing toward dharmic mastery. And part 4 corresponds to the 3rd part of the book, looking at the whole system for peace and prosperity. Again, a phrase that Srila Prabhupada used 195 times. And these 4 areas encompass what we call the 9 principles of career dharma. It's really of interest to me. I find it fascinating that Srila Prabhupada often talks about the principles of Varnashram, and I've heard many devotees in our movement talk about the principles of Varnashram. However, I was not able to find, my co-author, Dr. Datta, and I, we were not able to find anybody in our movement that could clearly delineate these from the Shastra. And I asked a number of people who've been, studying Varnashram for years, okay, what are the principles of Varnashram? And these are the 9 that we came to understand from the Gita and the Bhagavatam. So connecting our nature with our livelihood, that what we have as our nature should be how we maintain ourselves. Advancing through life while nourishing our nature. So this relates to ashram, that as we go through the ashrams, we first study in the brahmacharya ashram, as Prabhupada said, specific training for a livelihood. Then in the grahastha ashram, we work in our livelihood. In the vanaprastha ashram, we retire from our livelihood and guide others. And in the sannyas ashram, as Maharaj so nicely explained, we are really preparing for our final lesson. Then extending our prosperity to others. So without giving in charity, there's no question of actually having a dharmic livelihood. One is not supposed to just work for oneself. Ethical and meaningful work of value. So here we look at satovrite. One should have an honest livelihood, and one should provide something of real value. And ultimately, one should be providing, through one's work, bhakti to others. Now, ethical and meaningful work of value also encompasses the concept of not doing someone else's work, even if we're very expert in the skills of that work. And here we see that many, many times in our Hare Krishna movement, we'll say, oh, you're good at this, therefore you should do it. Although Krishna says twice in the Bhagavad Gita, even if you're expert in something in terms of the skills and information of that something, if it's not your nature, if it's not your dharma, you shouldn't be doing it. And we look in depth at how doing someone else's work is deeply unethical, causes spiritual havoc for the individual and for the society. Then delight in cherishing our prosperity and field of work. This is a topic that Srila Prabhupada and the Shastra discuss in depth. Even if we're in the right place, even if our work is connected to our nature, each area of work has its own type of integrity, its own type of dharma that has to be protected. Having celebrations of the sacred in our life of work. This is yajna, particularly based on Bhagavad Gita 3:16. Yajna pravaritam chakram, that this wheel of giving back to the Lord, above the shades of ego, which is what Dr. Datta and I call the gunas, to get above sattva, rajas, and tamas, no matter what work we're doing of, punara vartin or juna, to get above the modes of nature. And then maintaining a societal balance, cooperation between the fields and competition within the field. So this is how the four Varnas interact with each other on a societal level and all-inclusive sustainable prosperity, not looking for ongoing, unlimited economic growth on a finite planet. So from January of 2023 through May of 2024, I was teaching the Career Dharma course within the United States, Europe, the Middle East, the GCC countries, India, Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. And in some of those places, I taught it in great depth. That's a number of places, but the ones I wanted to point out were especially in New Nandagram, Spain, in Zurich, Switzerland, and Govardhan Eco Village, although there were quite another. So by in-depth, we're meaning having like a 5 or 6 day course where people were really exploring each of these topics for many, many hours. So one of the aspects of the course was the overview of the 9 principles. So this can teach anywhere between 45 minutes to 2 hours. We just go over what are these 9 principles. But in addition to the overview, we also have 4 in-depth classes. And this class number 1 is on our type of prosperity. We look at many ways of defining what does it mean to be rich. Then what is the definition of the 4 fields of work, which is what we call the Varnas. Then in class 3, what is the definition of the temperament? Who should fit in those fields? And then our class 4 is what happens if you go into the wrong field. So we taught this course in many, many youth groups, both ISKCON and people friendly to ISKCON, at Lloyd's Bank in London, many, many yoga groups. And there were ISKCON leaders, including members of the GBC who attended and who said this should be taught everywhere. We just recently taught at the GBC College in Gitanagari and at many ISKCON, dozens of ISKCON centers. Now, in addition to teaching the courses, we were doing a lot of individual consultation and coaching. So this is in person and online. So helping others to discover their own nature and brainstorming people how to get in your right place, how to get the training and guidance, and dealing with a lot of confusion and doubt. There's a lot of people like, I don't know what my nature is. I don't know what I should be doing. I'm in the wrong place. How do I get in the right place? So we were doing this with, I didn't count, but it was dozens, maybe well over 100, mostly in person, somewhat online. And these consultations, some of them took 2 minutes. You just ask a few questions and the person gets clarity. And sometimes it was a few hours to really help people get more clarity. Then what we'd really like to do going forward, we're starting this, is working with ISKCON communities who will actually institute the system of Career Dharma. And so far, we're doing this at New Govardhan in Australia and Rotterdam in Belgium. Certainly baby steps, but we're working with the leaders there and with the devotees there, helping people to identify their nature, getting them in the right place, and then having this altogether proper relationship between the kinds of work. So that's what's already been done and what is right now in progress. So the audiobook of Career Dharma, which is over half done, a workbook, which we are in the planning stage, and an online complete course. So this is not a live course. So we've been teaching Career Dharma live, primarily in person, occasionally like over Zoom, but we want to have a complete online course. This is 95% completed. All the video has been recorded and edited, etc. It has professionally done videos for each principle or sub area, and there's interacting learning exercises. All of that is done. Basically, all we need to do now is polishing and testing. And so this is what we've done with the Career Dharma system. This is the update that I wanted to give you. And if any of you are interested in getting updates when we have the online course done, when the audiobook is done, when the workbook is ready, you can sign up here for more information. So I did end at my 8 o'clock.
Maybe you can open up some Q&A from this group, as let me see also from online anybody. Please unmute yourself and directly ask your question.
By the way, I should say this has been one of the most exciting things I've ever taught in the Hare Krishna movement.
All right, well, thank you very much, Urmila. It was a
Oh,
wonderful
well,
presentation.
so nice to see you, even if just virtually.
I very often contemplate when I visit temples that the missing part of the administration is like a career counselor or
Yes.
a Dharma counselor, because I see that devotees are not engaged according to their propensities and they
Correct.
could be achieving so much more. So I really big on these things becoming the culture of ISKCON. Just
Oh,
like we're going to present, how premarital education should be the culture. Same thing. It needs to be our culture. So thank you.
yes. I mean, Rukmini, my dream is that every ISKCON center would have a career Dharma guidance office. Not only for our own members, for our youth, for our adult members, but for the general public. I mean, that would be amazing. Yeah, not only are people not being engaged according to their nature, but as I say, the system is off. So the way the different parts of the system should relate to each other is not generally there. And by the way, when people are not engaged according to their nature, they will burn out and leave. And they will not feel indebted. They'll not feel that they want to give back. They'll feel that they were used. And when people are engaged according to their nature and the system is in place, people will feel enlivened, they will stay, and they will want to give back.
We have Syam Gopal Prabhu. Could you unmute? He has raised his hand. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Mataji Urmila, Devi, Dasi, very happy to see you again. Thank you very much for a very valuable topic. I have a very simple question, which you also ask to Braja Sundara Prabhu. Is it possible to download this material for those who don't have a Kindle, like as PDF?
No, we're not going to give it as a free PDF. It's like $5 on Amazon. You can get a free Kindle app on your phone.
Yeah, but in some places Amazon is unfortunately not working. And
What?
okay, I only ask, is it possible or not possible?
No, we absolutely,
Okay.
definitely, positively do not want to do that. But we're selling it very, very cheap. And
Yeah, I already check everything.
yeah.
Like in Russia, Amazon is not working, it's not available. So
I see. Well, then what you want to do is contact me privately off this, and let's see what we can do about that. What we did when I was in India, we did a very limited printing in India, specifically for like India, Malaysia, Indonesia, where we couldn't get coverage with Amazon and Ingram Spark. So we do want to get worldwide coverage, and we would like it to be translated. I mean, especially when we get the workbook done, if you want to work with me to get that translated into Russian. But yeah, it is.
I just finished translating your book about the Avanti school and some materials for Krishna consciousness education for the kids. Some articles. It's very beautiful.
Great.
Now I see this is how's your life. You're continuing in this book now.
Yeah. Anyway,
Reasons I ask this
contact me
question.
personally, and we can talk about Russia and how to facilitate that. We'd like to do that for sure.
Okay.
100%.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
We have another question from Hanumat Prashu Maharaj. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
Maharaj, how may I serve you?
It's such a fantastically big topic, and we've been working it ourselves a long time. But just for example, one like how you would react to it. For example, in one big U.S. temple in South Central, we have the first generation of devotees there, disciples of a local guru who left his body, and they were running a Vaishya business and doing very, very well and supporting the temple and activities. And now their children have gone ahead and graduated from the regular school system, and they're engaged as doctors. And I think they're getting their rounds done and getting up in the morning pretty much. And now then their grandchildren are there. So doesn't that mean that actually we've established the Varnashram system?
Well, the looking just at Varna always exists in the sense that all the four Varnas exist in human society, except the very beginning of Satya Yuga. And the temperaments of all four varnas always exist. So if that's the case, why would Srila Prabhupada want us to teach Varnashram Dharma? Well, first of all, some people are in the wrong place. We have some people who have a Kshatriya temperament who are working as Vaishyas, and people who are Vaishya temperament who are working as Brahmanas, and people with a Brahminical temperament working as Shudras. And we go into great detail in our book and in our course how doing this causes havoc in a person's own spiritual life and causes havoc in society. So that's the first problem. The second problem is if people are in the right place, they may not know how to do their work dharmically. They may know the information and the skills of their work, but they may not know the dharma of their work. So it's just like if I'm in your house and I'm taking your things, that's unethical. But even if I'm in my house, if I'm not cleaning it and I'm not maintaining it, that's also unethical because ultimately it's Krishna's. So if I'm in the wrong place, I'm going to cause a problem. And if I'm in the right place, but doing it badly, that's also going to cause a problem. And we've seen that both of these are all over the place, that people are in the wrong place or they're in the right place, but they don't know how to be in the right place rightly. And of course, some people are in the right place rightly, definitely. And there are some people who go through the book and take the course and say, wow, now I really understand that I'm in the right place and I'm doing the right thing. And I feel very satisfied with that. So that also is certainly the case.
Oh, thank you very much. Exactly what our thoughts are. I see, to finish off, that many of our people involved in ordinary life and being devotees in first, second, third generation, that, for example, they get involved in the medical industry because it's a practical thing. They can learn it, they can make money, but they have a tremendous burnout pressure and so on. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't know how to find the right profession. So we're trying to encourage everybody to take up cinematography and start making movies.
Well, that's for people with a certain temperament. And we're certainly happy, just like we're trying to work with New Govardhan in Australia and Radhadesh in Belgium. If there's any community that really wants to institute this, we're certainly happy to try to work with them. Yes, Chandra Prabhu, and then I think we'll be out of time.
I want to first thank you very much for your magnanimity and sharing with the community. And I had a brief question. Are there some people that perhaps might fit into more than one Varna?
Ooh.
Based on that?
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope. You'd be at a war with yourself.
Thank you very much.
You can be mixed caste in terms of birth. So you can definitely have mixed caste in terms of birth, but in terms of temperament, you wouldn't be able to be both straightforward and diplomatic. You wouldn't be able to be both expansive and satisfied. The dharmas of the four fields are at odds with each other. What's dharma in one field is adharma in another field. And what happens if you think you're in two, you actually wouldn't be able to function. When people think they're in more than one field, generally they're either confused, which is a lot of people today, or you're in one field particularly assisting another field. Like there are Brahmanas who particularly guide Kshatriyas. There are Kshatriyas who are particularly concerned with the work of Vaishyas, if you think of like the Minister of Agriculture in the government. There are Shudras who just do Shudra work on their own. They run a pottery shop. But then there are Shudras who really want to help in government. Maybe they are a secretary in the law office, or Shudras who really want to help Brahmanas. You know, maybe they particularly like to put together artistic activities to help with education, or Shudras who particularly like to help Vaishyas. There are Vaishyas who particularly want to help government. There are Vaishyas who particularly want to help Brahmanas. They particularly want to make money for Brahmanas. So when a person thinks they're in one of two fields, either they're confused or they're in one field, but they particularly like to assist or have some relationship with another one of the fields. And in the dozens, I mean, it may be hundreds of consultations I've been doing in the last year and a half, I've never once found someone who's actually in two fields. I found people who think they are. And after you ask them the right questions and, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then you just see that they light up And they go, oh, yes, that's what I am. We do talk about prosperity types, 6 prosperity types. And another reason there's confusion is people confuse the prosperity types with the Varnas, and people can have more than one prosperity type. So thank you very much. I think my time is up even with
Yeah,
that.
thanks.